Yo, what's shaking, everybody? It's another edition of, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah, new edition.
It's the Crewcast. I'm a part of it. Jeff Ketchum joining you, along with Jason Sukumel here on the Orangebloods Texas Football Channel. This video brought to you by the guys over at Prime Shrimp. Get your 30% discount off whenever you order more than, what is that, 5 plus, 6 plus?
6 or more.
My eyes are like so damn bad at this point that suddenly I can't see what I'm talking about. Promo code Orangebloods30. Get the hookup on the shrimp. Jason and I here for about the next 30 minutes talking about a little bit of Micah Hudson update. Obviously, that's the elephant in the room with regards to recruiting across the board. By the way, welcome to the new Texas Tech fans who almost certainly will be watching this video, Jason, so that they can get upset about something that we might presumably say. And if they don't find anything, they'll find some other videos. They're on the hunt these days. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, do all of those things that we hope you will do. Jason, let's talk about Micah Hudson for a second. While we're doing this live, it's not outside of the realm of possibilities that over the course of the next 30 minutes, Micah Hudson could announce his commitment to Texas Tech. We're constantly hitting. That look you just saw was Jason doing a refresh real quick.
I'm like checking Twitter just in case. Yeah,
checking to make sure that doesn't happen. Coming out of yesterday's modcast, Jason broke the news directly from Micah, as it would be, that he was canceling this weekend's visit to Texas, the official visit, and what happens from there, TBA, whether or not that gets postponed and made up or postponed.
Let me jump in real quick, Ketch, and I know we're going to talk about it a lot, but he replied to somebody's tweet today and basically said, hey, someone was like, calm down, Texas will get him on campus for a visit at a later time. And he's like, yes, that's correct. So it sounds like regardless of what happens, he is planning on visiting Texas at some point, but it would have to be in the fall at this point because dead period kicks in on Sunday. So.
Well, and look, let's pick it up there. Like if we assume that in the next 30 minutes, next few days, next few hours, whatever, if Texas Tech is the leader right now, you and I started talking about this about a week ago. It might not be the worst thing in the world. Is this a little bit of sunshine in an otherwise, field full of dark clouds? Yeah, for sure. But you'd hate for Texas to use a visit up now and it be wasted because he's got Texas Tech on the brain and that's where he's going to go. And maybe he would go into this visit with an attitude that would do Texas no favors. But maybe in a month or two, it looks a little different like the Anthony Hill situation did a year ago, or the Colton Bassett situation a year ago, or what was the one from 2 years ago? We've got Anthony Hill. Kelvin Banks.
Banks from Morgan, right?
We've seen these situations with maybe the most important players that they're recruiting in each of the last couple of years. Texas won't be new to a situation if this kid ends up committing to Texas Tech. I actually think having that visit for the fall, they're getting ready to bring in like 75 dudes for official visits this weekend. Actually, it's 20, but it feels like 75.
Feels like 75 to me for sure. Yeah.
It might not be a bad thing, honestly, if he's definitely going to come back at some point for a visit, and he's definitely going to give a verbal pledge to Texas Tech at some point, I think using this visit later actually benefits Texas, although it won't necessarily feel like that the moment that he announces.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The only caveat with that is assuming he does take that visit. If he commits to Texas Tech, and then I don't think this will happen, but if he shuts it down and takes no more visits, well, then obviously you would have rather gotten him in this weekend as was originally planned. But, Micah, before, he's taken a couple other visits, unofficial visits to Texas, of course, and he's come in by himself, and that's kind of his MO. It's like some of these guys like coming in with big crowds of other players, for junior days and big visit weekends. Some guys like, no, I want to come in on my own time. I mean, Freddie DeBose told me he wanted to do that at one point. Micah, he's a personable kid, but he's fairly private too. So, getting him in this weekend with a group of 20-something recruits those coaches are spread so thin. He would have got his attention, of course, but those coaches are spread pretty thin. He wouldn't maybe has got as much personalized attention. If he's going to commit to Texas Tech, which I'm anticipating, you're anticipating, literally the reason we're talking about it possibly happening while we're broadcasting catch is Joey McGuire put a tweet out earlier, and it was the Ric Flair tweet, and Micah Hudson then goes on Instagram a few minutes later and kind of slyly puts it on his Instagram story. He doesn't have any pictures on his Instagram. He just deleted his Twitter account today. Again, he's done that a few times, but he did put on his Instagram live deal the pic. It's basically 2 guns up emojis. So you're kind of putting the pieces together. We're like, all right, hey, this is going down. I talked to someone who said, hey, they thought it might go down at the top of the hour, which was, this is about 30 minutes ago, but it hasn't happened yet. So we're on high alert. But to your point, back on track, I think it is beneficial for Texas. If Texas Tech has a pretty commanding lead, which we fully believe the Red Raiders do, to the point a commitment could happen at any time, Texas isn't going away, man. They're not going to give up. I mean, if Micah commits 5 minutes from now or 3 months from now, Texas is going to keep recruiting him. They're going to keep working his family. They're going to keep trying to get him on campus anytime they can. So if you can maybe do that in, let's say, early December, and you get him down for an official visit, you just keep him warm. You kind of keep the relationship going. Chris Jackson keeps building his relationship with Micah Hudson. You keep the lines of communication open, obviously. Maybe you get him down for a game one time, and then you get him in for a big official visit where you can give him some one-on-one time late in the process. That's a perfect recipe for flipping a commitment for a kid that I think will keep an open mind, even if he does commit to Texas Tech. I think Micah will keep an open mind. I mentioned earlier he did respond to a tweet today that said, hey, yes, I will take a Texas visit at some point. So, I think, we're kind of trying to find a silver lining. Maybe this thing's not trending Texas's way. But
I also think it's reality too. It's a silver lining. But
yeah. I guess in a perfect world, listen, you'd much rather have him commit to Texas if you're a Longhorn fan, and then you have to fight off Texas Tech. Okay. I mean, Texas Tech clearly has the upper hand. If they get a commitment from him, they would tell you that's where they want to be. They'd rather be in that position than the other side. But we've seen this happen too many times to count. I mean, flipping a kid like Micah Hudson is not at all out of the question, and getting him in for a late visit would be a big part of that equation.
Think back to Colton Vasek a year ago. There was almost immediate buyer's remorse. Mm-hmm. The moment, it was less than 48 hours, Jason, when I can't remember if you told me or I told you.
No, you told me. You heard it first, in fact.
I was like, man, I'm here. I go, you're not going to believe this because it literally just happened. But I had heard that Colton Vasek had some immediate buyer's remorse. Look, if Tech maintains its lead, this gives him a chance to live with the decision for a little bit. How comfortable does he feel about Texas Tech? Does he change his mind during the season? It is a long time until December. If he waits until later in the year, there's less time for him to have buyer's remorse. So, this is where it's going if you're Texas. It's not your first rodeo in the last couple of years of needing to lure really critical recruits. And make no mistake about it, Micah Hudson is a critical recruit in this class. That being said, and look, we'll move on to the rest of this recruiting weekend, of which Micah Hudson was a big part of this weekend a couple of days ago. So
one of 2 5-star. He was one of 2 5-stars expected in, and that number's cut in half all of a sudden.
I mean,
I'll see Micah catch. I'm heading to lovely College Station tomorrow morning for this state 7-on-7. Micah, the reason he told me canceled the visit, I should know, he didn't say it was related to anything to Texas Tech. I could pull up the text, but he literally just said, hey, I'm playing in state 7-on-7 with his Lake Belton teammates. So he'll be playing pool play Friday, tournament play Saturday. He was going to maybe come up after that. But anyways, I will see him in College Station on Friday. So I'll get a chance to talk to him Friday. Who knows? He may be committed by then, obviously. But if he is or isn't, I'll be talking to him and, kind of gauge, what he does next or, what the next step with him in Texas might be. So we'll have a much better handle on it next week's Crewcast. But I'm looking forward to seeing him and kind of just picking his brain in person, sit down, talk to him eye to eye and just kind of see, where things really are. How strong is this Texas Tech stuff? are you keeping the door open for Texas at all? Hey, random rumor alert. Here we go. I heard that maybe Alabama had climbed, and I heard this just yesterday, that Alabama maybe had climbed into the second spot behind Texas Tech. I didn't quite believe that, but I heard it from kind of a roundabout Texas Tech source, if you will. They're like, hey, they feel like Alabama's the bigger threat than Texas all of a sudden. I reached out to someone I know who covers Alabama, who's pretty connected. And he goes, you know what, man? He goes, I've been hearing that Alabama's been talking to them and they feel like they got some traction there. He goes, he didn't think much of it, but there's some Alabama smoke all of a sudden. So that's another question I want to ask Micah.
Kelvin Banksian at this point, remember?
Well, Kelvin Banks, like, of course, he committed to Oregon, and everybody thought he was going to go to A&M, right? And then, lo and behold, it really never was A&M. It was Texas in the end, and everybody just kind of assumed it was A&M. And hey, it
was A&M and Oregon in the summer, and then this is kind of what we're talking about. Like, this won't be Texas's first rodeo to be in these kinds of situations. In December, it ends up being an Oregon-Texas deal, whereas when the idea that Kelvin Banks was going to decommit from Oregon, if you'd said that in June or July, a lot of
it was early, Catch, because he decommitted. I'm trying to remember. He committed.
It was all like the week before the Pancake Factory stuff came out.
I was on vacation, I remember. So it was July, because I remember it was on like a family vacation out of state. And I remember talking. I can vividly remember stepping out on the back porch.
Oh, yeah. His commitment was in July.
Yeah. He committed to Texas in July. Right.
No, he committed to Oregon in July.
No. I'm trying to pull it up.
Kelvin Banks flipped after Oregon lost its head coach and literally before.
He committed in December. Okay, maybe. What am I getting confused with? But
I have no idea.
I don't remember. I'm talking to a source, but I remember, and he was blown away by it. But okay, my head's still on a swivel today.
Okay. Anyway, let's transition away from, real quick, couple of super chats. Jay thinks Hudson's 100% pulling a Billy Bowman and chasing the girl to Tech. Sorry. I haven't heard a ton about that at all.
Yeah, that rumor's been kicked around. Girlfriend's going up there, but I've never heard Micah mention it. I don't.
There have been some guys, that's Billy Bowman. You knew that was one of the elephants in the closet,
right,
or in the room. This one, I don't know. I think there's more going on than just that. Hudson is coming to Texas when Tech plays in the ATX.
Okay, let me backtrack so I don't sound like it totally dawned on me. Yes, he was committing to Oregon in July. I was on vacation. I was in Lake Tahoe, and everybody thought it was Texas or Texas A&M. And people were saying it's Texas. And I remember calling a source at Texas, and even they didn't know. And I was like, hey, it's Oregon, man.
In the 2 days leading up to that, Texas got locked out of the conversation. If you'll remember, he did Zoom calls with A&M and Oregon, didn't do one with Texas. I think it was the day of the decision, and Texas wasn't completely dialed into what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, he committed on 4th of July. That's what it was. I remember vividly talking to a source on the porch and basically breaking the news to him. Hey, dude, it's not going. He's not coming your way. There were sources at Texas that still thought it was going to be Texas, but yeah.
And then in the end, it did go their way. So let's talk about this weekend. So no Micah Hudson for whatever reasons, although I will maintain my gut instinct. We talked about this on Slack. The moment he snuck in for a few hours last Friday, that knowing that he was going to take the official in just a week, the sirens were going off a week ago, the day he came in for that unofficial visit, that don't be surprised if by Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, he cancels the Texas visit. And look, maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he came out of that Texas Tech visit and literally was like, hey, I've got 7-on-7 at the same, it could have gone down like that. But I'm just telling you that there were alarm bells going off. And it was funny because Texas fans were getting excited. It was like, hey, he's coming in Friday. He's going to come back in a week. You didn't want to tell people, actually, let me be negative and tell you what I really think is going to happen. We hinted to people, because some people did bring it up. We were like, well, yeah, you have to keep an eye for whether that happens. It did.
Listen, I mean, they qualified for state 7-on-7 several weeks ago, so it's not like this just popped up on his schedule. I think I put on Orangebloods last week. I'm like, hey, there was a tweet like Lake Belton qualifies for the state 7-on-7. A tweet from like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, keep an eye on this man. This could affect his ability to get to Austin, and they might have to juggle some things. And I mean, the writing's kind of been on the wall, with this visit. So,
with Hudson not taking the visit, it's a big deal. Suddenly, it feels like the Colin Simmons weekend. With all due respect to everybody else, there were already a couple of headliners. When the two best prospects in the state of Texas are in on the same weekend, it's a big deal. It feels like whatever the arch treatment is, it's going to be given to Colin Simmons.
He's certainly the headliner. He was kind of co-headlining with him and Micah prior to this week's developments. But yeah, that's a recruitment Texas has done a really good job in. I'm not ready to call Texas the leader. I still think LSU is going to be a major player there. Georgia, I think he's at Oregon this week on an unofficial visit with some teammates. So that one's going to have some twists and turns. But I mean, this weekend is going to be pivotal. If Texas has any chance of landing 5-star defender Colin Simmons, I think the groundwork's already been laid. But I'm not saying they're going to close the deal this weekend. But I do think it's going to be pivotal in the end. I mean, there's going to be like I said, other visits and twists and turns. And I think Colin probably takes more than 5 official visits. He probably takes some in the fall, but he's the headliner this weekend. And it's a guy that he's a game changer. I mean, there aren't many defensive game changers in this in-state 2024 class, but I mean, Colin Simmons is a potential game changer, and Texas has to do everything it can to try to win out in that recruitment. And this weekend will be a big step in that.
What could you hear, see, whatever over the course, let's say the 48 hours after his visit ends? What could you hear or see or whatever that would make you think Texas accomplished what it needed to accomplish beyond him saying it's a great visit? Yeah. What would make you feel like a real blow was landed in a good way for Texas?
Well, it's going to be a good visit. I mean, this staff does a good job on visits. So, we'll hear those comments. Oh, it was a great visit. And, everything was fantastic. What do I feel like has to happen? I think Texas has to come out, and I think publicly they need to be the leader. I think Colin Simmons needs to come out of this weekend saying, hey, not making a decision. I'm still open. But, man, Texas Tech is at the top of my list. I think they've got to do a good job with his family. That includes his mother, his younger brother. I'm trying to remember what visit he was just on, and he basically said, "Hey, this is more important to me than anything else, making my brother feel wanted and feel loved." So I think they've got to do a good job across the board with Colin, with his family. I think Texas has to come out of this weekend feeling like it's the leader and maybe publicly be declared the leader. Because if you come out of this weekend saying, hey, yeah, it was a good visit, but, so are all these other trips I've taken, then you're just on an even playing ground. I think Texas needs to be in a better spot than that coming out of the weekend.
You'd like to really hear him say rave reviews, because he's done interviews with other media organizations. I mean, Colin's pretty accessible. He's not like a major spotlight guy who's doing a million interviews, but he does do occasional interviews. And when he does, he can be quite insightful into like what it is that he's thinking about. Texas has done a good job of nailing the stay home, win championships here. It's important to potentially be a Texas guy going to a Texas school. You've seen kind of that rhetoric from him before. So they've been able to land some of these talking points that they want him thinking about. I think that's exactly the kind of thing you want to hear him say is, look, it's maybe 50-50, but I think if I'm going to stay in Texas, it might very well be at Texas or even something stronger than that. And then maybe that's what you're going to get. That's what I think you would hope for.
Sorry. Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, if he comes out saying, hey, I don't think he'll say 50-50 because I would insinuate he's down to 2 schools. But yeah, Peyton, I did interrupt your super chat. So let me break back. Hudson is coming to Texas when Tech plays in the ATX. I don't think even Micah Hudson knows the answer to that question. Yeah. I'm sure Texas will try to get him in for that game, but I don't think Micah plans that far ahead, man. So we'll see.
So Jason, beyond obviously we've talked about Micah Hudson, we've talked about Colin Simmons. Those were the 2 5-stars. Hit me on the rest of this weekend, the names that really pop for you.
Yeah, looking at this list, Catch, I'm going to just kind of talk about some of the guys that I think have a really strong chance of being in this class. I mean, we could go over each guy and it'll take forever, but Parker Livingstone, the wide receiver from Lovejoy, is coming in. He's announcing on July 1st. He's canceled a couple of his other visits. He's been to South Carolina. I think Texas has a pretty strong lead there. I think Texas does it good. I think they'll do a good job this weekend. I feel pretty confident in Texas's chances there. I don't have a future cast in for him. I need to put one in, but I do think Parker Livingstone, the wide receiver, I think that's a big one. Alex January, who's Colin Simmons' teammate, the defensive tackle out of Duncanville, he'll be in. I think he'll probably make a decision fairly early, but nothing is set in stone. I don't think he has a hard, firm date. I've been told by a source, I think it's probably Texas or LSU. Going to wind up being Texas or LSU for Alex January. He's got some quite a few family connections to Louisiana, in fact. So Alex January is a defensive tackle for Duncanville. I think Texas has a great shot at him. I'll take kind of a sleeper one, Catch, and nobody's talking about, and I'm looking forward to talking to him after the visit, but TJ Lindsey, who's now at IMG Academy, but defensive end. There was a lot of talk about maybe Texas and Texas A&M. Everybody thought it was going to be A&M. Now I'm hearing a lot of Texas buzz kind of behind the scenes. I don't think it's been talked about.
People are pretty confident about him.
Yeah, I'm looking at the future cast. Everybody still has theirs in for A&M, but I think Texas is right there for that one. Selman Bridges, Micah Hudson's teammate, the cornerback, will be in town. He's going to go ahead and come in after he plays in the 7-on-7 tournament. Selman's kind of said publicly, hey, I'm probably not going to decide until December, but most signs point to Texas for Selman Bridges. Who knows? Maybe that affects Micah Hudson down the road. We'll see. Jordan Johnson Rebel, Catch, another IMG Academy guy, a safety, guy's from the state of Texas. He's taken some pretty heavy hitter visits. He's been to Ohio State, Michigan. He was actually at TCU for a midweek visit. He's coming in this weekend. I think Texas looks really good there. National top 50-ish type player. He hasn't publicly announced a commitment date, but I'm kind of hearing some smoke behind the scenes. That one's not going to go too long, I don't think. I think in the next couple of weeks we'll have an answer on Jordan Johnson Rebel. I think Texas knocks it out of the park this weekend. I think Texas is the likely landing spot. Could have started with him. Jarrett Gibson, the running back out of IMG Academy. Man, it's IMG Academy weekend for Texas. I was told months and months ago when he visited for the spring game, so that was a couple months ago, don't be surprised if Jarrett Gibson shuts it down on his Texas official visit. So, we'll keep an eye on that one very closely this weekend. I think Texas has a great shot there. Want to make sure. Oh, one more I want to mention, Corey and Gibson. Interesting story, because when I saw him at Texas Relays, which was in March, I believe, and talked to Corey in a bunch, I thought he was coming to Texas. I always had Texas as the leader. Clemson came in; they had just offered. He went out to Clemson for a visit, was blown away. I mean, he flat out told me, he goes, "Hey, I might commit pretty early, right? Basically, go ahead and commit to Clemson even before I do official visits." Well, he hasn't committed yet. He's taken his Clemson official visit, still didn't commit. So things have he's kind of held on, which is exactly what Texas wanted and needed. He's coming in this weekend. It's his birthday. He and Jordan Johnson Rebel are really close friends. Good chance they wind up at the same school. I thought it was going to be Clemson. I felt really confident about a Clemson pick maybe a month or two ago. I don't think so much anymore. It's 50-50-ish, and I think Texas has a real chance to make a move on Corey and Gibson this weekend.
It's so funny. I mean, really,
I didn't even mention Kobe Black. Someone mentioned. Yeah, how did I forget Kobe? There's so many guys.
I'm about to mention Kobe Black because I think
got to talk
the
about
secondary is the one position where it feels like you can find some really nationally elite guys. I mean, I'm pretty confident in saying I think Texas is going to have one of the stronger defensive back classes in the 2024 recruiting cycle. Kobe Black's a guy that, they feel really good about. I've got a future cast in for Texas with him. You mentioned Johnson Rebel. You mentioned
Corey
Gibson. Going back to Selman Bridges, that recruitment suddenly is really interesting to me because I kind of thought that not that he and Micah Hudson are a package at all, but the real common school between the two is Texas. And I wonder behind the scenes, I'm just curious how that dynamic works moving forward.
It's interesting because I think I know what you're getting at. Like, if Micah winds up at Texas, does Texas still as aggressively recruit?
Well, not even that. I was just thinking about it from the perspective of I've always thought that Selman would end up at Texas, and part of that would be because I originally thought that Micah would definitely end up at Texas. But Micah is now a wild card in the recruitment of Selman because he might not end up at Texas. And deep down, I wonder what's really going through Micah Hudson's head with regards to Texas. It wasn't a great thing that a couple of Orangebloods posters, 3 or 4 out of 25,000 that are on the site make comments, but he saw those and he made a point to recognize that I saw some of the comments that weren't flattering. I just wonder what all of this with Micah means for Selman, because I thought Micah would be one of the feathers in the cap that Texas had with it with regards to Selman Bridges.
Well, I will say, I still think Texas gets him, but I do think the odds maybe are a little lower if Micah Hudson's not coming to Austin.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I still think it'll be Texas. Sark is directly involved there. When I ask Selman, he talks to the secondary coaches, of course, but Sark is kind of his main recruiter, so they're making him an extreme priority. I still like Texas's chances there, but I do think if Micah's not going to be at Texas, that may give Selman a little bit of reason for pause and maybe reason to kind of evaluate some of these other options. And again, he has said he's probably not going to decide until December, so a lot can happen between now and December.
Before we wrap this thing up, anything else from the weekend? We've kind of gone through some of the names. There are so many. Let me ask you this. Gun to your head, not how many commitments from this weekend occur in the next week or two. But if you look at this list, and I was to say how many guys from this list of this group of 20, how many of the 20 would you say end up being Texas commitments?
One of them's already committed, so I'm going to count him. But counting Trey Owens, I'm going through my list. 8, 9, 10. I think I'm going. If you set the over and under at 9.5 catch, I'm going over. I think
just read my mind. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I think it's 10 or more.
Because I thought if you said 10, I was going to say, so is 9.5 the number?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're probably right. I think you can look.
I think a good chunk of them will happen in July too. I think we'll know it. We'll have a pretty good indication of that if it's going to be over or under. I think by mid-July.
This feels like a group that we've got a number of future casts in, whether it's Jarrett Gibson, Kobe Black,
Daniel Cruz. We didn't mention Daniel
Cruz, who seems to be, he's not going to ever be acknowledged, I think, as an elite prospect by rivals in the other services. But boy, make no mistake about it, they've been on him like white on rice the entire recruiting cycle. And he's had
Rivals 250 guy, man. Rivals showing him some love. He's 171 national, but
I'm talking,
he's
I don't
a
know
bit
he's going to be national top 50.
No, he's not. And he's Texas loves him as a center, for the center position, but Kyle Flood absolutely loves him. He is a very specific position player for an offensive lineman, but Kyle Flood loves him as a center prospect. As you said, they've made him a huge priority for a long time.
Now, that being said, any final comments, or we can wrap this bad boy up and actually have stayed on time today, Mr. Sukumel?
Yeah, look at that, 30 minutes. No, we can wrap it up. I've got a bunch of writing to do tonight to get ahead of things because, like I said, I'll be going to College Station tomorrow. I'll be out there in the sun all day tomorrow, and then I'll come back here on Friday, and then we'll have the big recruiting weekend, and then I've mentioned before, next week I'm jumping on a plane going to Atlanta for recruiting stuff. So it's ripping and roaring, man. But yeah, this should be an eventful week.
It's about to get. It's been busy, but it's about to be hectically busy, and it's fun and the bane of our existence at the same time. Look, we will be around if there is breaking news. If nothing else, I'll hop on and do a Micah Hudson instant analysis video. If there's a commitment tonight, tomorrow, I mean, I feel like a doctor with like a client list of, pregnant women who are 9 months. it can go down at any time. Jason and I aren't going to play golf the rest of the day. We have our heads are on a swivel. But for now, that is your Recruitcast previewing this upcoming weekend's visits, brought to you by Prime Shrimp. Again, it's pretty simple. The promo code Orangebloods 30% off orders of 6+. It's that simple. Take advantage of it. It's the season. Until next time, whenever that may be, you guys take care of each other. Texas Tech fans, be nice in my Twitter mentions. Y'all have
too late for that.
They have a thing about my bald head where it's like I'm being called Mr. Clean, and then there's like other bald white dudes that they're trying to say I look like. I don't know. It's a little weird, guys. I've literally been around for 2 decades, and it's like you just discovered that I can irritate you a little bit. Kind of strange. On that note, be good to each other, and we'll see you soon.